So, I was watching the latest ISC and it occurred to me that I was actually seeing a pretty decent schematic on what parts of the games are going to be like over the next year or so. I thought about doing this video a couple of weeks back, just using pilfered images of cockpits from the various ISCs, but then I heard they were going to talk about it, so I decided to wait and see what they said. And there's a lot to talk about that they didn't specifically go into. So, first up, let's talk about power management. This one worried me a little bit. You can see we've got our current output on the left here and the total possible as well. And here we have weapons, engines and shields. Now a concern here is that with the loss of the power triangle, switching will somehow become more difficult. I personally don't think it will. I think they will have come up with an elegant solution that isn't reaching out and touching the MFD. Right now, when you want to add a pip to engines, say, that is just subtracted from the other two fields, and you have no granular control over where that power should come from, using binds alone at least. This is probably nothing to worry about, as the only time you'll ever really be switching power around on the fly in such haste is in combat. And maybe it's okay to be a lot more inaccurate. Press bind to add 20% to shields, hold bind to put shield to maximum. Pretty much what we have already. But there were other sections there as well. If I had to guess, I'd say this one is radar and comms maybe, and this one is life support, and this one I'm not too sure about. Maybe it's doors and hatches. This one could be a quantum drive. I didn't see turrets on here though, which could be a small oversight. Obviously you would be able to shut down individual items on the diagnostic screen on the right there, but shutting off all turret weapons when not in use would be a handy toggle. The hope is though that there will still be a minimum operating level for these systems. If I use a bind to put all power to shields, I don't want to cut off my own oxygen and disable my guns completely. I'd hope there will be some resemblance to what's in game now, where a minimum is maintained for operation, and when you want all power to shields, you're only shifting around the top 40-50% of your total draw. I'm sure that's going to be the case anyway, but with the community the way it is right now, it would be detrimental, let's say, if they introduce anything that's going to impede combat gameplay. Along the top is your IR, your electromagnetic and your cross-section signals. And when you bring the power down in these things, you can see your signature drop as well. In my opinion, this all seems to be coming together really nicely, and I'm actually pretty excited to get this in my hands. The only thing really missing from the pilot controls, from what I could tell anyway, was the ability to set and engage custom tuning preferences. I didn't see any options to set, say, a stealth mode that was pre-configured, or a high performance mode that was pre-configured. It looked like you had to do it all manually and slowly each time, which would be a shame if the single seat craft didn't have that ability, and that was only reserved for the bigger ships with full engineering terminals. But we can start to see an outline now of how engineering is going to play out for small ships at least. And I'm really glad that they are getting catered for as well. Over here we can see our warning indicators. These will usually be a light colour to say that they are active, and red to say that there's an issue with power, weapon, thruster or shields. We've still got proximity warnings and QT, when we've been radar locked, when we've been missile locked, if we're running too hot, and if we're getting shot at as well. All of these functions and the MFD on-screen layout seems to be consistent across all the manufacturer variants, although I have seen the warning indicators being split into different areas. Diagnostic panel looks pretty much the same, just health of components, and now there's errors being received. There's still the overclock function too. The fact that that's remained tells us it will be part of ship tuning and engineering, it looks like. And since we have a total power draw indicator, we can possibly push things into the red depending on the capability of our components and coolers, etc. Also during this section we see on the shield screen the location of where a possible problem might be occurring. And again, it's good that they've put this on the shield screen in order to save you having another full MFD. Along the top of the Aegis style, we've got a slight visibility issue here on the right, but all the usual suspects are here. We have the mode on the left here, so it looks like merging missile and gun modes will likely not be a thing, even with the new weapons groups, unfortunately. I might have been the only one hoping for that though. One less mode to switch through, I was thinking. Then we have the velocity indicator, and I'm guessing that little bug on the right will separate out to highlight current and intended velocity. Hopefully anyway. Then we have our current speed in digits and our G-force. I am a bit worried that this is a bit low. and replaces the heads-up display, because when you're tracking a target overhead, you're not going to be able to see your speed. But it looks like the altitude and the target distance and speed will remain, so we're all good there. And on the right we have a boost meter and the decoy and noise counters. This bit in the centre will be on all ships, I'd imagine, but in different positions. We do have a very interesting change, however. All the other stuff is pretty straightforward: coupled, ESP, lock, G-safe, gear, but this one, Atmo, is the most interesting. I've watched the whole vid and none of the ships with VTOLs have a VTOL indicator anymore. So my thinking is that eventually when we hit atmosphere, we will either be engaging flight surfaces on a ship like the Gladius, or we will be engaging VTOL, or we will be dropping out the sky like a brick. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're on a descent path from where we normally drop out of Quantum, above a point of interest currently, you can probably just forward thrust on a glide path down to the target and enable this quite close to the location. But I'm thinking that if you want to actually fly, or probably even turn in atmosphere, you will need to enable this Atmo mode, and that is going to be a very big change for everybody. I think it sounds awesome though. Anything that makes things more adhere to physics in this game will always get my vote. But I could be wrong about this, let me know what you think. Weapons groups are going to be a thing, and this is another significant change that will definitely boost the game's quality of life a lot. It looks like you can assign 4 groups with any combinations of weapons you like apart from missiles. So you can have all ballistic, all laser, or combine them all. I'm guessing here, but I really hope this means they won't remove the secondary fire button. Even though it's not strictly necessary, I'd like to retain it anyway. In fact, I'd take a 3rd and 4th fire button as well, just for shits and giggles, to be honest. Either way, I think this will solve a lot of problems for pilots who use EMP and quantum snares and all of that stuff. Self-status will now be dynamic and shift depending on operator mode. You will see your gimbal mode, weapons group, ammo count, armed missile number and all that good stuff in the weapons modes, and QT and hydrogen fuel in the nav mode. And turrets get their own version too. That doesn't really affect much how we play the game, but it will save us a lot of MFD switching, and that seems to be really well thought out, I'd say. Target status seems pretty much the same, a bit clearer in terms of what you actually might be hitting. There's faction data there, which could become really important, and the target signature output. With some skill, this might be put to use in determining and anticipating your enemy's decisions. Is he going into QT, is he coming into nav mode, that sort of thing. Shield assignment remains the same pretty much, and hopefully still has binds as well. Scanning info has been moved to an MFD instead of the HUD, which is a great idea to be honest, and will reveal further info like their ammo amount. And lastly was the config screen. This could be an absolute master stroke of genius here by CIG. For so many years a lot of these settings have been hidden in the game settings, and most people don't even know where they are or what they do. And what a lot of them do determines what configurations your ship starts up in. Do you want to start up your ship in decoupled mode always? Would you like some gravity compensation with that, sir? Or are you just a full fat decoupled kind of guy? What about slowing down when bringing out landing gear, which is what precision mode is? G-safe, ESP, lead pips, fade pips, staggered fire, turn off elements of the HUD. You'll be able to set all these up for each ship individually and start in that configuration every time. And the new radar looks absolutely fantastic. And for the first time in Star Citizen, your ship looks like it can fully become your ship. And my feelings on this overall is that it's going to be a massive step forward. If it works, that is. I mean, I know myself, I'm probably in the hype section of the patch cycle right now. Then comes release, then confusion, where we're like, oh look, this thing doesn't work, that's weird, even though we should know better. But then after about a month of hotfixes and stuff, people are mostly just flying around enjoying the new patch and all the cool additions. But what can such small changes mean for the game as a whole? Not much obviously, apart from the things I've mentioned so far. What the real tell is that it seems almost final, I'd say. It's really good and pretty well thought out mostly. I think a lot of people will be happy with it. So aside from a few minor changes, I predict that this is the MFDs and HUD that you will see going into the final game. And anything that's not there, they've said it's easy enough for them to add additional screens to these MFDs. Say they want a refueling screen, a drone deploying screen, a mine laying screen, a ship repair screen, a base building screen. We should be all set. Anyway, that's all I've got time for, just a wee short one between bigger videos. Got a big one coming in the next few days about the little things in Star Citizen that I love the most. You know, the tiny details that you normally walk right by, so keep an eye out for that. I'd like to say a big thank you to the newest channel member, Ovibo. Welcome aboard, dude. Thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you all again sometime. 07 guys.